Okay, so this is the January Fostoria Area Safety Council meeting. It's my pleasure to welcome you here today. We're going to kick our meeting off with BWC updates with Dave Morant. Welcome, Dave.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, thanks.
I only have three things to mention this January for our meeting. Is BWC still has safety webinars that are available through the portal learning management system. There's a few that are still available for this month, and one of them is record keeping. That's for the 20th tomorrow. And then workers' compensation and how safety affects small business profitability. That's on the 25th of this month. And then we have additional classes for the remainder of the fiscal year running up through June. The other thing I'd like to mention is the Ohio Safety Congress 2022. They have open enrollment now, and so you can get online and sign up, and that was running on March 9th and 10th. And the last thing is OSHA record keeping. This is just a reminder to post your OSHA summaries between February 1st and April 30th. And electronically submit to OSHA to over 250 employees. We're in a specific industry, 20 to 249 employees. Most of the links I already sent them to Sarah, so if you're wanting those, you can contact her and she can forward it to you. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Dave. Anyone has any questions specific to Dave, you feel free to drop those in the chat, and I'll kind of be monitoring that, and hopefully Dave will as well, and we can get those answered for you. All right, next up is our speaker for today. We have John Spahr, and he is the director of Seneca County EMA, and he's going to share with us an overview of EMA and some of their programs and services. So welcome, John.
Unmute. There we go. Thank you. I realized I didn't unmute, and then my computer told me that. I love it when it listens to me and tells me that I'm not doing it right. That's the best use of technology, I think. Okay, if everybody can hear me, thank you for having me here today. I am the Seneca County Emergency Management Agency Administrator. I thought that we would talk today about just a little overview, nothing formal, about what emergency management means in Seneca County. And then we can take questions related to anything and everything regarding emergencies. First of all, if you're unfamiliar with emergency management, that's probably a good thing. That means we're in the background and we're taking care of stuff, and you don't need to see us out front. However, this is the overview and the blurb for what emergency management is. First of all, we're like the county version of FEMA. FEMA is Federal Emergency Management Agency. We're Seneca County Emergency Management Agency, and every county in Ohio has an emergency management agency and administrator. That is by law. That is Ohio Revised Code driven, that every county must have an emergency management agency coordinator. Let me read a little bit about our mission. The primary mission is to coordinate activities to mitigate, prepare for, respond to, and recover from disasters. This mission is carried out by closely interfacing with local, state, and federal agencies in an effort to bring resources of recovery and support to citizens of Seneca County impacted by disaster. In addition to disaster response and recovery, EMA activities include education, training, planning, and preparedness, strengthening Seneca County's first responder capabilities, and improving communication across the county. So that's the official language. Let me bring this back over so I can see you. What does that mean on a day-to-day basis? What I do and what our office does is we stand by to respond in a secondary responder posture. So if you have a fire or a car accident or any kind of other disaster, including flooding, a collapse of a building, or river problems, we respond in a secondary fashion by providing resources for the first responders. Now, some of those resources are long-term resources. For example, having a strong communication system for the first responders to operate on across the county. We provide a backbone here in Seneca County. We also manage grants that help pay for the upkeep of support systems, and try and get some training going for our citizens in schools and in the school systems, teaching people how to be safe and how to respond to disasters. We have an emergency operations center, which is located on the Seneca County Fairgrounds. That's where my office is as well. That emergency operations center will be activated if and when we have a disaster that requires that center, and it is available if you want to come up and take a tour and get a feel for how the center would work in a disaster. You can call my office and make those arrangements. We also manage and maintain the emergency operations, the county emergency operations manual, which sets the how we respond to emergencies throughout the county. And we update that yearly, and it's available to all of the first responders so that they understand that in an emergency, this is how we're going to proceed forward. Now, as with anything else, the important part of that is the actual planning and writing, because in an emergency, you're pretty much going to respond second by second based on what's going on. So you might not actually follow that plan, the emergency operations plan, to the letter, but the benefit of the plan is in the research and writing, so that you understand what your capabilities are, where your weak spots are, where your strong points are, and where you will need some assistance. And everybody needs help during a disaster. We also, every 5 years, the county is required to update their mitigation plan, the Seneca County Hazardous Mitigation Plan. And that is looking ahead at possible disasters and where the weakest parts of our infrastructure are in regards to that particular disaster. Then we make sure that we have a plan for that in every jurisdiction, and we list it in our mitigation plan. Now, those jurisdictions who find that they have roadways or let's say they need to clean out a creek that will cause some major flooding if we ever have torrential downpours, or if we have trees that need to be taken down. Those things are the things that will be listed. Those jurisdictions will try to work on those things. They don't have to get them done, but they can try to work on them. And if grant money becomes available, if they're listed in our mitigation plan, the grant money through emergency management or through the EPA or through federal grant money can be applied to those, or possibly be applied to those projects. One of the big ones that they push each year is when you have regular flooding that affects homes and buildings. They try to identify those buildings that would be better off to be removed. Now, doing that costs money. Where are we going to get the money? Well, there's grant money for that. And if you have identified those things, that grant money could include purchasing the home and then demolishing it and then rezoning that area in a way that it can't be used to build another home. What does this do? It relieves the pressure on insurance. It relieves the pressure on the homeowner to pay for flood insurance. And there's a safety aspect to it. If you have a home that floods and floods and floods and floods, you're dealing with things like black mold or a foundation that is not as safe as it was. You could be looking at building collapse. So if we identify those things ahead of time and find the money to through grants to remove those dangers, then we can help people out going forward. That's all part of the mitigation plan. We also manage the local emergency planning committee, which is the LEPC, and handles hazardous materials, whether it's on the road or companies that carry hazardous materials like fuel spills and oil spills, et cetera. we help manage the hazardous material responses and partner with the Emergency Protection or the Environmental Protection Agency in Ohio and the federal EPA. Let's see, I talked about communications. We maintain 4 communications towers across the county that allow the county first responders and others to place radios and antennas and communicate with each other across the county. And we maintain those towers and some of that infrastructure. Let's see. I think I've covered all the high points. What I'd like to do is open that up. Well, I'll tell you what, before we get to that, one more thing. Our job in the last 2 years now has been to support the Seneca County General Health District with PPE distribution, tracking, and with testing, and helping them with vaccines, vaccine clinics, et cetera, because they could use the extra help. And the state EMA and state health department have been working closely together as well. So I've been working with both the former and current health commissioners to make sure that we are in a responsive position as best as we can based on the supplies we can get for the citizens of Seneca County. So what I'd like to do now is just open it up to questions. Pretty much anything. If it's something that doesn't apply to me, I can get you the information or point you in the right direction. Otherwise, we can talk just about answer any kind of questions you want to ask.
I'll kick it off with a question. I know you had talked about the partnership with the Seneca County Health Department, and you've recently sent a press release out regarding the rapid test kits and their availability.
Right.
You received your most recent shipment?
We did 2.5 weeks ago, and we went through 1,500 tests in 3.5 days.
Yes. Okay. And so currently the supply is, you have none?
We don't have any right now. We're waiting. What the state did, the state health department, because of the increase in requests, and they had 200 requests in December alone from agencies, emergency management agencies, health departments, schools, etc. So in December, they said that they were going to try to, the warehouse was going to try to honor all of those requests, but starting on January 1st, they were going to use a new system which prioritized schools, whether it's K through 12 public schools. Actually, I shouldn't say public schools. It's K through 12 schools and colleges and universities as a priority as kids were coming back to school. And then health departments and EMAs would not be allowed to order anymore. What they would do is give their requests, work with the health department, make that one request. So then they'll ship it to the health department or where the health department tells them to ship it. And I told in Seneca County, I'll handle the distribution because the health department doesn't have the staff for it.
Okay.
I am no longer able to get them. I used to get them and the health department did, and we both distributed. Then at the end of December, we decided to team up and I distributed all of them based on the health department's standard. And right now we're both completely out and have been for 2 weeks.
Yes.
Well, almost 2 weeks.
That's helpful because the Fostoria Chamber was an actual site that the health department had given some to, and
yes,
so contacted regularly, and everyone is currently looking for them.
Yep.
We'll put out to the group though that the federal website is live to order rapid test kits at home. We shared that on the Fostoria Chamber Facebook page today. But if you just Google it, it'll take you right to that government website and you can order them. They say they're processing 7 to 12 days out. So we'll see how long it takes to get your 4 kits. But it is a struggle for employers and we are aware. So thank you for that information. Right. So we'll continue questions. So if you have questions, drop them in the chat, unmute yourself. Don't be shy. I can continue asking a couple questions.
Sure.
But this is for your benefit, council members.
There.
All right, I'll throw another one out while everybody else can think about their own questions. You talked about emergency preparedness and the county has a plan. What pieces of advice or key pieces that businesses should have as part of their own emergency preparedness plans?
Well, I think the number one thing is to have somebody dedicated who understands especially what to do in an emergency at that job site, whatever it is. Somebody's got to teach every new employee and then a refresher for all other employees on what to do if there's going to be a tornado, what to do if there's going to be a level 3 snow emergency or a blizzard coming. Just having that either written down or walked through, for example, if you've got a strong thunderstorm or tornado warning, everybody in the building ought to know where to go and what to do. So that's the number one thing. And I find that it takes a back seat, and this goes for everybody everywhere. It's very difficult to keep that in the foreground of your thinking when it's been years since you've had anything like that to deal with. Knowing where fire extinguishers are or fire exits, or just, when you hear that alarm, what do you do next? Where do you go? So that workers don't have to turn and try and ask somebody else, or worse, panic and end up in a position where they can be hurt. And we can look back to the tornadoes that just devastated Kentucky and from Missouri through Tennessee and Kentucky. And there were people at work. I mean, you expect to be safe when you go to work. You expect to be taken care of, but there are just some things that are too big that even the company can't do anything about. But you can, and the company can at least prepare you as best you can by having you go somewhere as safe as possible. Nothing can be predicted 100%, but it can be planned for. So that's what I would tell businesses. And if they need assistance with that, or if they want to be part of an emergency management training for any one of those things, they can reach out and to my office, and I'm happy to assist with that. Okay, I see a question.
Okay.
Yeah, does government funding stay the same each year, or is there a change from year to year? Just wondering how you use this information to budget prioritize projects. Okay, the emergency management, the funding, my funding comes directly from the Seneca County Commissioners. Okay. And that's where my budget comes from. The emergency management planning grant, which is an annual grant that we receive through Ohio EMA and originally from FEMA, helps offset 50% of what I can spend on things like salaries and benefits, and some cost of running this agency. Not all of it though, and every year it gets a little bit trickier to navigate that budget process with the EMPG grant. It's you can imagine when dealing with the government what hoops you got to jump through in order to get money reimbursed. So it actually. This is how there are some grant opportunities out there that come out every fall now, and one is called the BRIC grant, and that BRIC grant is based on the funding for that BRIC grant is based on the money spent in recovery from federally declared disasters from the year before. Okay, and it's a percentage, and I'd have to look up which percentage that is, but it ends up coming out to being $500 million to $1 billion each year. That's spread out across the country for people to. It's a pool of money that the next year you can use for building. BRIC stands for building resilience. I'm sorry, building resilience and infrastructure and I can't remember what the C stands for, but that's the whole point, is that if you have a great big flood or a hurricane or a tornado or the fires out west or whatever, they take that money that they spent the previous year on all disasters and they take a percentage of it and make it available. They use that as a number and they make it available for the following year so that you can look ahead and say, we need to shore up this before the next disaster happens. And that money is pooled out and is available to all jurisdictions across the country. So that's one of the ways that that kind of budget changes from year to year. My personal budget from the in the EMA is about the same each year, because we plan, we sit down and go, what do we need to spend each year in order to keep our head above water? And that's what we plan for. Any money, excuse me, any money that we would need during a disaster, for example, can be authorized by the county administrator or the county commissioners up to a certain, well, they can authorize anything they want, but once the disaster gets big enough to be declared by the state or the federal government, then the money comes from them. And basically we can spend what we need to spend within the parameters of that, and then apply for it to be refunded through FEMA and disaster grants from the federal government. So that's how that works. Okay. Are you able to assist companies on active shooter, workplace, violence training, or give information on some resources? Hold on one second. I guess I'm talking too much. Yes, we do. We can get you hooked up with people who can do active shooter workplace violence training. Usually what that's going to do is I would probably locally redirect you to the Tiffin Police Department or Fostoria Police Department. They'll have better resources. I do have resources for that, but they'll be coming out of Columbus. I know that a couple of years ago, we did a big training with Tiffin University and Tiffin Police Department, et cetera, that I was a part of, that we did over at, we used Calvert for an active shooter drill. And we used all local resources for that. So that is possible. I think the best thing to do is to contact one of the chiefs of the police departments or the sheriff's department. All three of them would be very, very willing. If you don't get anywhere in that direction, let me know, and I will get in touch with the regional resources and state resources who are happy to come up and do training like that. I don't think it costs anything. So I don't know if this is Fostoria. Most of the people here are Fostoria, correct? Or the Fostoria area. So you obviously, you know, Fostoria straddles 3 counties. But for emergency management purposes and health department purposes, Fostoria belongs to Seneca County. The city of Fostoria and its boundaries, whether or not it's in Wood County or Hancock County, fall into Seneca County as far as mitigation, hazmat, EMPG, those kinds of grants. Now, that being said, I have several communities like that. Green Springs is like that. Also, Flat Rock up in Northeast is like that. And where we have a community that crosses a county line. That being said, I work very closely with the Hancock County EMA Director and the Wood County EMA Director, sharing information and keeping tabs on what's going on in that community, because although there may be a line, I'm not going to walk to the edge of that line and say, this is it. I can't do anything past this. I'm going to hand it off to Jeff or to one of the other EMA directors. We'll work together on that. So you have some reservoirs that are inside and outside the city, while I work with Hancock County on both of those, on those reservoirs, whether they're in his jurisdiction or mine, because when it comes to reservoirs and infrastructure, they cross lines, and the tornado doesn't care and the flood doesn't care where your lines are, and they don't care where your budget's coming from. So just so you know, those three and all of our Northwest Ohio EMA directors all have very, very, very good working relationships, and we all meet on a regular basis once every month, once a quarter for one of them, and for one group, and the other group is once every other month. So we're all talking all the time.
Looks like the chat got very quiet here.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to give everybody kind of their last chance here.
Tell you, I'm gonna.
Oh no, go right ahead. Go right ahead.
What I was gonna say is I'll put my contact information in the chat.
Okay.
If anybody has questions after this, or something that occurred to them later, or something they just didn't want to bring up, that's fine. Feel free to contact me. I'll give you my email address and my cell phone number. It's the best way to get a hold of me is my 24-hour cell phone number. I am on call 24 hours a day because, you know, there's an accident at 2 o'clock in the morning with a fuel spill. I'm called and I go out. So that cell phone's never turned off, and it's the best way to get a hold of me. Calling my desk will get you my voicemail, and our system will send me an email with your voicemail in it, but might as well just call my cell phone. It's the easiest. Oh,
right.
That's my name. How about that? Let's do this.
That's okay. You can give it to us in pieces and parts as you post it.
Yeah. I'm just so used to hitting return to just return to the next line, not, you know, enter. So let's see. There's my email, and here's my phone number. Okay, so we do still have PPE available, not a lot, and we're not getting any more from the state because, frankly, you can order it. But if you find yourself in that bind where whoever you ordered it from said, hey, sorry, but it's going to be another week and a half and you're running out, give me a call and see if I can't help you bridge that gap till you get your order in. I do still have some. We're not purchasing any. At least we don't have plans to purchase any. If it becomes necessary again, we'll revisit that. But right now, I just have what's left over from the glut that we got after the supply line woke up or caught up. So feel free to reach out for PPE as well.
Okay. Thank you. Well, John, thank you for your time today. Thank you for the work that you do, especially over the past 2 years during the pandemic. I'm sure it posed a lot of new challenges and made you work harder than you probably had been before. But thank you on behalf of everyone in Fostoria for all the work that you do.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And just so the group is aware, next month, our February meeting will be held via Zoom again. And our speaker for next month will be talking about ways to communicate safety. She could not actually join us live, so we did record it this week. And I will say she provides some great communication tools that you can implement within your business to communicate safety and really make it a culture. And the speaker is Vanessa Billiot from ProMedica Health System. So I hope to see you all next month. And with that, have a wonderful, safe day. Bye, everybody.